Second podcast. We're back.
Number two.
Yeah, so number two. So what's on the agenda today?
I thought we'd talk about the danger of people pleasing and appeasement, because I think we've got a society at the moment that just lives by that. And I think there's certain reasons for that. I think our society is pushing people into being more insular in their views and opinions.
Yeah,
So
no,
a lot
definitely.
of narratives are being shut down. But I also think that it's part of how we were raised as well by parents and our teachers. Just be kind, and it doesn't leave any other room for being assertive, standing up for yourself, standing up against injustice even. So I wanted to touch on that today because I think it's an important subject.
Yeah, let's go for it.
So we start on different aspects. I think the first one to look at is I saw a podcast the other day actually by Gabor Mate. He's the trauma expert. He's a very good guy.
Yep.
I've seen quite a few of his videos. And he was talking about I'm sure it was Gabor Mate. Apologies to Gabor Mate if it wasn't, but I'm sure it was him talking about the data of people pleasing and keeping your emotions suppressed on serious illness. And it was really interesting because he was talking about you are more likely to get serious illnesses like multiple sclerosis, certain types of cancers, all kinds of things just by keeping locked down. And there's that terminology that people use about that these serious diseases only happen to nice people.
Right.
Like, it's happened, somebody's got cancer, only it always happens to the nice ones. And I think what they mean by that is that it's not about being nice, it's about these people often keep their emotions locked down.
I can see that because these diseases, they eat your own body. They're attacking your own body, aren't they?
Yeah.
And that's what happens when you have trauma of some kind.
Yeah.
Or your body is just so caught up and so trapped that it's eating it. When they say you're eating yourself up inside, it's pretty much doing that inside,
absolutely.
Isn't it? And it's that multiple sclerosis is where obviously the sheath of the nerve is attacked by its own body. So that's why it's an autoimmune issue, I believe, anyway. But then I can see where you're coming from. If you've got all that emotion, that could be anger, could be your trauma from the past and stuff locked up inside, and you're not expressing it, you're not getting it out of your system, and it must really affect your body in some ways. And of course, like long term, it can affect your health, whether or not it be MS or it could be cancer. Stress must have an effect on your body in some way.
Yeah, and I understand absolutely that if you deny your opinion, if you think you do it because you get something out of it, and you don't have to face your fears, you don't have to put yourself in a vulnerable situation. But I don't think we look at what we lose.
Okay.
And I think we can have that amazing profound loss of health by doing. We don't see that. We just think, at least I avoided that uncomfortable situation. At least I didn't have to say what I really felt like saying. But the body always feels the impact. We know it, don't we? Whenever we don't say something, we walk away from that situation, the body's almost saying to us, you should have said something. Yeah. You should have done something. And we feel the impact of
I think we've all been in that situation,
Absolutely.
though. And
Absolutely.
I for one, I feel like I'm a bit weaker in that situation because I think it comes to, I think we're going to discuss is people pleasing, obviously. Yeah. And you're making sure that you're saying what people want to hear in a way. Yeah. And to make sure you're keeping people around you happy. But I don't think that can go on anymore because the placing's in such a state. You got to say what you think, and you can't be swayed by what other people are thinking anymore. And I've been weak doing that in the past. I've been led by what other people have been telling me, and that's how I have been led in the past. Yeah. And it's so important, I think, for myself now and for many others in my situation that you got to come out of a situation. I'm not going to go into too much detail about it in a moment, obviously, but in my past, for sure, you've got to stop being led by what other people believe. Yeah. And say what you think, and not worry about what other people say as well.
We can't learn if our opinions are shut down. Even the worst ones, we just can't learn. Everything needs to be exposed. Yeah. The only world worth living in is one where we can be offended. Because that's the only way we can find out the chinks in our own armour. When we feel upset and hurt, that's more to do with us than what someone's saying. Because how can we correct ourselves? How can we become stronger if we don't work on the chinks in our own armour? What offends us? What makes us... We always look out, and we've got a society now that's trying to shut down all areas of being offended. So what it's going to be not just subservient, but it's actually going to make us create the worst aspects of ourselves. Because the only way we can overcome the worst parts of our personality is by having them exposed.
Right, yeah.
So if they're shut down, then they're just going to grow.
So your personality, obviously, I for one wear my heart on my sleeve. And I always have done.
Yeah.
We were discussing this earlier.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
And I think that people like myself are the ones that are more affected by what people say. I think they get offended more and a bit more easily. I, for one, do. And I'm sick and tired of being offended, and feeling that I'm weak when I know I'm not.
No.
And so I think you got to, as you're discussing there, it's about making a personality that you are and becoming a person who you want to be.
Yeah, no, it's a really good point, because I think, as you know, we have a lot of guys here, and they come here for coaching, they come here for training, and one of the things that they're always perturbed by, they're actually quite disturbed by. So I think they're too emotional. They think, I've got to get rid of this. I need to be more resilient. I need to be tough and all the rest of it.
Yeah.
But if those feelings aren't paralysing them, pursuing good and going forward in life and creating the life they want, then it's not really a big issue. It's only an issue if those emotions are paralysing someone into not taking action, into being quiet, into being subservient. If they're not doing that, then they can become quite an asset. If you can go forward despite how you feel, then you're still going to create with them. You're probably going to create with those emotions as well. And I think that most of the men that come here, the vast majority think, I need to become something else. I need to, and they think they're going to do that by acquiring knowledge, by acquiring something. And we spoke about this earlier as well, but they actually are already everything they need to be. That's what they miss. They've already got it.
It's by experience.
Yeah, but it's actually by chipping away. And we use the analogy of the Greek statue, where you could go into an art gallery and you could see a Greek statue, and some people look at it and go, wow, that's amazing. I love that. And someone will go up beside them and say, well, I don't like that. I think it's ugly. So I'm going to add a bit there, and they put a bit on there.
That's such a good way of putting it. It really
is. And people
is,
keep coming over, and they keep putting their own part on there.
Yeah.
And before you know it, that original masterpiece is completely obscured by other people's perceptions and experiences. So our job is to chip away.
Yeah.
It's to take those parts off to reveal the original masterpiece, because they get covered with parental conditioning from our teachers, painful life experiences where we armour up and say, I'm never going to be hurt again.
Yeah.
So we obscure it by allowing these parts of us to be put on there that were never meant to be there. So it is about, that simplifies the process. What about if I just have to get rid of my conditioning that I've received from everybody else?
See, it's so good the way you just put it there, but it's so much harder than you say it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's painful.
It's painful. Yeah, exactly. It's to do with emotion, and what us guys are really crap at is showing emotion. Yeah, we're made by emotion. We're made by experience. We shouldn't be made by how we're taught, because you got to learn by your own experiences and stuff. Yes, you're taught in good ways, but also you could be misled. And I think saying what people want to say and doing what people want to do doesn't help you as a person and to become empowered and become a better person.
And we're aware of these emotions, aren't we? We're aware of our hurts. We feel them. Yeah. We just don't say them.
No.
And sometimes we don't want to say them. It may be appropriate not to say them. Yeah. For instance, you wouldn't go into a high-powered board meeting as a CEO and go, I feel terrified today. Yeah. It may not be appropriate to show feelings.
No,
if absolutely. At that moment. Or if a soldier's going to war, he doesn't want to, he may have to mask his feelings. So, but we've been taught to do that all the time. And I had a guy here last week, CEO of a company, crying his eyes out in there, in the clinic room. And but he was a prolific worker. He was incredibly successful. There were just some areas of himself that he just hadn't come to terms with.
Right. So
he thought he had to add on and add pieces to himself that weren't there. But actually, he realised that actually he just needed to take some stuff off.
Yeah. It's almost like the more you add in, the more of a burden it's becoming. You need to take those burdens away.
Yeah. It actually says to you as well, I'm not enough.
Yeah.
If you have to become, if you're always saying to yourself, I have to become more.
Yeah.
You're basically admitting to yourself, I'm not enough.
Yeah.
Whereas if you've got everything you need to be, it's just about chipping away.
It's almost like the theory of the shoulders, isn't it? The weight on your shoulders and stuff. The more you're putting on your shoulders, the heavier you're going to get, the less you're going to be able to move.
Absolutely.
So it's almost like taking that weight off your shoulders. And so I've trained clients in the past men in particular, well, men really, who struggle most at work because they're higher up in their companies, and because they're the elder clientele, they get given work and they get taken advantage of, and they don't know how to say no. Actually, I'm doing enough.
Yeah, absolutely.
You're taking the piss. See, I don't know how I'd cope in an environment like that. I'm so pleased that I didn't go down that route, because today there's so much for people to do, and it's that the world is so fast and furious that people don't know how to say, actually, no, I can't cope. I can't do anymore.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just stop giving me more work to do, because I'm only human at the end of the day, which is what a lot of people forget. I for one, I'm really, really weak at doing, is for forgetting that I'm only a human being, and that I can only take on so much, And
well, that's not being that's the I'm not enough part, isn't it? If you feel you're not enough, and then it's you're always going to be thinking, well, I need to take on more. I can't say no, because otherwise people are going to think I'm not enough. I'm going to think I'm not enough, and that's where it infiltrates into every aspect of your life.
Right. Yeah.
And so many people do not feel they're enough.
Yeah.
And I was reading the other day about what the meaning of faith really is, and it's about understanding that you are fully accepted and you fully accept yourself. But nobody does that. Yeah. And I think that's really powerful, is to have that self-acceptance. And we never ask questions either, do we, about why do I go around with that group of friends? What do I get out of it? Why do I never say no? What is that about me? Why don't I ever say no? What do I get out of that? And what do I get out of it in a positive way? What am I avoiding?
Yeah.
And it's the fear of confrontation.
See, the thing is, nowadays you've got social media there as well, so it makes it 10 times harder to come away from that, to come away from that environment, because you're constantly scrolling through, looking at your friends about what they're doing, and then why aren't I in that photo? I'm your friend. Why? They're comparing themselves and putting themselves in a situation which really, deep down, they don't want to be in, and because they don't need those people, because they're the ones who are kind of feeling like they weren't friends in the first place. Maybe I'm going into it a bit too much, because social media is huge. It's a Facebook, it's fake book. A lot of people call it fake book, don't they?
Absolutely.
I'm bad for it.
It's the
I'm
ultimate.
awful for it. You put on there all the good stuff.
Yeah.
Don't you? I mean, you wouldn't put on there, you're having a shit time at home, or your job's going out the pan or whatever.
No, it's always the ultimate fantasy site, isn't it? Where people portray the life that they want everybody else to believe they're living.
Yeah,
but they're not
again,
really.
that's people pleasing, isn't it?
Because, it is. Yeah.
But at the same time, is it people pleasing? Because they're looking at you. They're not looking at how good your life is. They're actually looking for drama. People are looking for drama.
It's a form of people pleasing, though, because you're portraying something. You want everybody to view you in a certain way. Surely that is a form of people pleasing.
Yeah.
You give them all the good stuff. You show them on the beach. I'm not saying people shouldn't put up their holiday photos, but if it's a constant portrayal of, look how I'm having a great time all the time, you are looking for some sort of acceptance, because you don't have it.
That's true. No, I mean, I think if people look at it, sorry, I'm looking at the camera now. if people look at it deep enough, I think that's a very, very fair point. And I think if a world without social media would be a completely different place.
Yeah,
it'd be huge.
It's taken a slight, idea of people pleasing that most people did on some level, and just put it on steroids and put it through the roof and made it like a way of life.
Yeah,
just
but it is a way of life now.
Yeah, it is. Yeah,
it is. You see, every kid at the bus stop, right? They're not talking to their friend. They're looking at their phone and scrolling through. They're texting the person next to them.
Yeah. I know families who do that in their own household, where the child's upstairs and they text them, say,
crazy.
The dinner's ready. I mean, it's just it's crazy.
How can you be involved in a society when you're doing that? Yeah, I mean, I've been so bad for that. I mean, I've when my wife and I got married, we were called the Facebook couple, because we were always on Facebook, because we let the whole world know what we were doing all the time. And obviously our wedding was on Facebook straight away. But looking now, as you get older, as you get wiser, You look at the world in different eyes and stuff like that. And I think you think, actually, do I need to let everyone know what I'm doing? You know, I haven't been on Facebook once in the last few weeks, to be fair. You know, I've health-wise, I've had a lot going on. You know, I haven't wanted to let people know what's going on. It's none of their business.
No.
And if I was a people pleaser, I'd be on there, putting a Facebook status on there saying, "This is how I'm feeling. Help me."
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's difficult, isn't it? Because the society has changed so drastically. You know.
It has, and I think, you know, obviously the whole idea of this is about empowering men and coaching men, but I think this people pleasing is become a way of life for men. They're appeasing everything around them, and you know, we've spoken about guys that have gone into relationships and they just think, well, if I just appease my other half and do everything she wants and give her everything she wants, and it's going to create a form of safety for me. But it doesn't. It puts you in the most dangerous place, because people start to take advantage. You haven't got any boundaries. You give until there's nothing left to give.
That makes sense. I mean, you know, I think if you open your eyes a little bit, you might see that with people who you know around you, but you don't say anything because you don't want to upset people and you don't want to upset yourself.
No, well, they will absorb the biggest impact for it.
Yeah,
and,
of course.
I think everybody's done it. We all go through that, and this is the thing we get told as children: it's just be kind, and have respect. But what does that actually mean? Because what I see now is a kind of forced politeness, a forced kindness, where it's almost like a barter, where we say to people, "I'm going to be kind to you and give you and tell you what you want to hear, but in return, I want you to do that for me and make me feel safe." And you don't grow like that. And
No,
I told you the other day, I watched the life story of the author Thomas Wolfe when he met in 1929, where he met his first publisher, and the publisher did everything for him. And eventually, he got really egotistical. Thomas Wolfe fell out of friendship with him, and he went around Scott Fitzgerald's house, who wrote The Great Gatsby, and was complaining about the publisher, how he's let him down. And Scott Fitzgerald just turned around and said, "The guy's done everything for you. Grow up and make amends." He said, because this guy is the only guy you're going to have with you when the fans aren't around anymore. People aren't honest with each other like that anymore.
No,
they just don't. They don't tell them what they need to hear to make them grow. They just tell them stuff to make them feel safe, so they can people please and keep them in the same position.
That does make sense, and I think obviously people watching this may completely think, actually, no, that's wrong. You know, but I think if they look deep enough, they'll actually see that, you know, that's what politicians are doing.
Absolutely.
You know, you look at the people who are running the country. They're saying things to please us. You know, they're not sticking to their promises. This could be quite controversial, but I really think...
No, it's an appeasement government, absolutely.
Yeah,
I mean, they're not putting any risk for themselves, though. I mean, the risk is all on other people, but it's all appeasement and pleasing sometimes the completely wrong people. And there's probably obviously a plan behind that. But I think the reason we've got a government like that is because we're like it. I think the government are a reflection of the people. And I think that's one mistake we make, is we point at them and go, look at them. What have we done to deserve them?
Yeah.
Well, everything, actually. Because the way they act is probably how the public behave.
Well, it just goes to show, doesn't it, that we're led by and we're taught by what we're fed. You know, by what.
Yeah, absolutely.
Lessons and all that sort of stuff, and the laws we're given, and all that sort of stuff. It all comes from the top, as you say. So, but we're looking to change that as with the ultimate courage.
Yeah, let's try something different. Let's try traditionally as you know, each man to hold his own standard, and that's going to be really hard, because if you want to step out of appeasement and people pleasing as a man, your whole life is going to change. You're going to access, and it sounds a bit cliched and corny, but are going to access a potential that was never there before, because potential, as the saying says, fortune favours the brave. Your potential is going to be accessed by seeing yourself as you really are, not some fantasist idea of who you are, but who you really are. And if you take away that conditioning, go back to the original masterpiece we said, you're going to have something you can really work with and really make an impact in the world and other people.
As you say, that it's going to be very difficult, you know, and it's going to be emotional, it's going to be tiring, it's going to be hard work. Yeah. But if you plug away with the right people around you, so like we're going to hopefully create our community of men, of young guys who are struggling, who have enough courage to come forward and say, look, I'm in that situation.
Older guys too. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, absolutely. Any man. You know, I say we're going to do it. I mean, us and our community that we're going to create. And I'm buzzing of the idea of it going out there. And I think that the more people talk about it, the more it will happen, and the more it will achieve. Definitely.
I think our biggest fear. If people talk about the biggest fears, I think one of the biggest fears is definitely the fear of our own potential, what we are really capable of doing, and we arrange a life around not having to do that, not being the men that we could really be. Because I think it was Abraham Maslow, that once came up with a quote saying, you know, that our biggest fear is our own godlike potential, and he used the word godlike deliberately to give an idea of its enormous potential we have. So we almost avoid that as he quotes that godlike potential.
Yeah.
By avoiding that, we can settle for something smaller. In every area of our life, we settle for something smaller. We can be quiet. Don't put your head up. You know, people take shots at it. But actually, if we all do that, then we allow tyranny to grow. Not just tyranny on the upper echelons of society, but tyranny within ourselves.
Right.
Because if we're not aiming at courage, if we're not aiming at the men we can be, we naturally gravitate towards the opposite, which is what I said in the book. It just happens.
Yeah.
If we don't say, right, I know what my values are, I'm going to aim at the highest courage I can as a man, and your potential will come out of that anyway. Then you do you just slide down this slope towards the opposite because it's so easy.
Yeah, I mean, I look back at my past, and I was in a group of friends where wrong group of friends were being silly, you know, drugs, alcohol, and it happens, you know.
Yeah.
But the longer it happens for, the longer that, you know, the deeper that slope's going to go, and the further down you go, and the harder it's then going to be to get out of it.
Yeah.
So again, it's
there's no end to that slope. Yeah.
It's tough, isn't it? I mean, I know a few guys who have come out of it, you know, and then they've come out of it, and they're completely different people. Not different people. They're the people they're supposed to be before getting in that situation.
Yeah.
And being with those people who made you feel weaker, who made you feel less of a man, and dragged you down. And that's how I feel about my past. I feel like everything that happened, not everything, obviously I've got positives, but you look back at your past and you think, some of these situations I got myself in and made me the weaker person that I was. And I don't regret it because it's made me the person I am now.
Absolutely. Should have been your pathway too.
Exactly. But I look back and I think, maybe I should have done something better there. I could have said something different. I should have stood up and said, no, I'm not doing it anymore. You know, I was in a situation where I feel like I could have done, but I didn't. Is it easy? Because I think the easiest way was to carry on doing what I was doing.
But the key is to do that now. Addiction's an interesting one because I've often said to you about my own exercise addiction.
Yeah.
And, you know, I needed to deny who I was.
Yeah, of course.
So the addiction is very much indulging who you're not.
Yeah.
So you just deny yourself. It's a separation of self. Because you just don't want to go there. But I do think a lot of that is that fear of responsibility, is that fear of that person you could be.
Yeah.
And I think I've treated a lot of addicts, all different kinds of substances and addictions.
Yeah.
And I understand the addictions there originally to soothe the pain, definitely. But afterwards it becomes a reason not to be who you could be.
Yeah.
I very much felt that in myself. I thought, I'm going to excel in this area of running and bodybuilding.
Yeah.
But actually it was a hiding place for me.
Oh, definitely.
Because to have to face my responsibility as a man and the world around me, I was terrified of life. I thought it was a perfect reason not to get over that addiction.
Yeah, no, of course. And what you said on the last podcast about when you won that first place and you were hidden behind, you thought when you lifted that trophy that everything would kind of disappear. But it doesn't. It's another thing to hide behind.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then you thought, right, I've got to find another way. What else can I do? I've tried everything. I've tried, but unfortunately people get addicted to the wrong stuff. Exercise, they say that exercise is a great thing to be addicted to, but sometimes it's not. It's the complete opposite.
Nearly killed me.
Yeah.
So, but the only thing I will say about exercise, it's probably the only addiction you could have and go back into it and find yourself.
Right.
You couldn't do that with alcohol.
No.
Or drugs or cocaine or heroin.
Yeah.
You can do it with exercise. If you go back in there with a different objective, a different mindset of why you're doing it, you can find yourself in there. So maybe that's the only difference is with that addiction to exercise. You can go back in it and find yourself, which I certainly did. I just changed what I was doing.
So what was your addiction exercise wise? What was your go-to when was it running?
Well, at first it was definitely bodybuilding.
Right, of course.
It was definitely that. So I thought, I need to create an armour. I need to create an armour around myself about, I was terrified of the world, keep away from me, and I need to create an armour.
Right.
And that was very effective.
Yeah.
So people would look at me, and I looked the epitome of health and fitness. I looked, tanned and bronze and big and muscular, and inside I was dying. I was a shell, an empty young man inside. Which is why I'm never impressed with the physiques I see, because I think, well, if it works that well, why is men's mental health and suicides continuously going up? Absolutely. And we're getting more fragile?
Definitely.
If just looking good is the answer, clearly it's not the answer.
I think we all know that by, again, social media and stuff.
Absolutely.
And what a bad effect that's having. Look at all these people committing suicide and stuff. Love Island, for example. That's I don't know how to say that.
No, absolutely.
People who go on Love Island, they think they're there for the image, for the fame. They come out and they're completely changed as a person because they've been knocked by social media, the mainstream media, and they go and they're in that position where, unfortunately, they've lost a couple of people's lives, haven't they? Because they can't cope with it anymore.
No, absolutely, and that's the thing, isn't it? Is that what we've spoken about as well, that arrival point where I've arrived on TV, I've arrived at this place, I've got my shot.
Yeah.
If you've got nothing about yourself outside of that, if you've got no real solid innate knowing of who you are outside of that, you're going to be on very dodgy ground. And it's happened before, isn't it, with celebrities dying and committing suicide. It's just terrible, and it's that arrival point is false.
Yeah.
Because it's going to go anyway, and this is why we see so many even world-class sportsmen and women. They next minute, a few months later, we see them that they're now addicted to alcohol and they're on drugs and everything. So thinking, well, I don't compete anymore. Who am I?
Yeah.
What is my identity now?
Yeah. I mean, you could name a few, couldn't you? Really, to be honest, there's quite a lot of professional footballers, for example, who used to play for England and score bags full of goals and stuff, and play for Man United. And now that they don't look the person they were before. And you don't hear of them because they were the image they were, but society moves on. They kind of forget. You kind of forgotten about them.
I think a coach needs to prepare them for that. You will have your moment of glory, and then it'll be gone. And that was in the film the other night as well with Thomas Wolfe. Scott Fitzgerald said to him, "There will be a time when the fans are gone." Yeah, and you'll be in silence, and that's when your best friend, who became his publisher, who was his publisher, will be the only one walking that road with you. Yeah, he said. So you don't upset the people that are there with you when you've got nothing. Later on, when you seemingly got everything, because it will pass. And that's the thing, is that it's just a flash in the pan. It's just that momentary fame. Some people never have it, and so they create it on social media. Yeah, they create it elsewhere. Yeah, and they're looking for those likes. They are. They're looking for the likes, the follows. Yeah. And they're thinking, because I've got those likes and the follows, people are looking at me. And they're respecting me for the way they're seeing. And that's the lack of self-acceptance. Yeah. I won't name them, but I know some people on Facebook I'm connected to, and they're going to check now. They've always got their parties and everything going on, and having a great time and everything. And I know them personally. I know that they've never accepted themselves. Yeah. And you just can't escape. It's tough, isn't it? Because, as I said, I for one used to be one for loving to go on Facebook, and I think it was because of the situation I was in. I was a single dad. I was on my own, in my own little bubble. And I posted so much. I put every day on there. It wasn't because I wanted sympathy. It wasn't anything to do with that. It's just because I wanted to be recognised. Almost, I wanted to be kind of. Well, as a friend, social media for me was a friend. You kind of something to reach out to, even if I didn't know these people. You go into these groups, these massive groups on Facebook. You've got thousands of people in there you don't even know. I know, and you put in posts on there for their opinions,
But why would you want? I'm thinking to myself now, and recently, and over the past few months, why would you want the opinion of thousands of people that you barely know?
Absolutely.
Well, why not look to the people who love you, who care for you, and who've been there for you through thick and thin?
Yeah.
So do you know what? I've not been on any of those groups for a while, apart from my functional neurological disorder group, which is fantastic because we're all alone because this is such a different. Some
of it's handy. You reach out, you spread we're doing it now, aren't we? We're spreading the message. Something we believe in that needs to be heard.
Yeah, I think it depends, as you say, on the situation and the group it is. But I didn't mean to generically put it on all groups, but there's some out there you just think, well, it's pointless. It's all out there to take the piss out of people, you know. And then people are looking for. You obviously got the trolls, the online trolls who are there. You know it's going to happen. But when people get those comments or the bad comments about you, it depends on what person you are. If you wear your heart on your sleeve and you get offended, it can really affect your mental health.
You see, I love the bad comments.
Right.
I don't love it in an egotistical way, but someone, because as you know, I put a video up on TikTok about toxic masculinity. The first one I did saying there's no such thing, and I won't get into that today. There's a reason I say that before everybody sends their comments. But there's the reason I like the comments is because I read them, and there was lots of comments from women and some guys as well, calling me all the names under the sun. And one of the women commented, said, I bet you're going to delete these now, aren't they? And I put on there, no, because they do you more harm than me.
Right.
So I like to leave them up there.
Right.
Because if I leave them up there, they can just stay there. And over time, I can look at them and say to myself, right, how do I feel about those comments? What do they do to me? Do they offend me? Do they make me feel smug, which is equally bad, or if not worse? How do they make me feel? So I can only adjust myself by feedback. Right. We can only get to know ourselves through relationship and comments and interaction with other human beings. You can't do it otherwise.
No.
So the only way we can find out what our weaknesses are and what our strengths are is through relationships. Whether it's friends, lovers, family, whatever. And even on social media, we look at the comments. You've got a connection there which comes back. So I love to look at the comments because the first thing is, how does that make me feel? What's happening inside of me when I read that comment?
Okay.
Secondly, it's very revealing on their side. If someone's calling someone swear words and really ugly stuff on social media to someone they don't know, they're really revealing in that moment who they are and how they perceive the world in that moment. So I want to leave them up there for both our sakes, so they can look at them and maybe come back to them and remember what they said, thinking, well, I can't believe I said that to that young man or that young girl, whatever it may be. I can't believe I projected such hate. It's always an opportunity to go beyond it. So I like the comments. I like to leave them there. If anybody ever gives me a negative, I leave it there. I never delete it because I just like to look at it and go, well, look, how does that make me feel? And secondly, I can see how they perceive the world.
It's funny because sometimes you see people come back and they remove their comment.
They do.
And they think, shit.
They do,
shouldn't put that because it's going to make me look shit. Again, they're thinking about how it's making them look.
Absolutely,
I mean, I know on our group on Facebook and on the FND group, we're quite afraid to put out comments and videos of our condition because there's a lot of bad stigma about it because people don't believe. But some people believe that it's been made up. People are making up these symptoms and stuff. I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous. Why would you?
I had it with ME.
Why would you want to make something up about yourself? Like you can't walk properly, you can't talk properly. You're having seizures. I mean, why would you do that to yourself? Why would you do it to your family? You wouldn't. Anyway, sorry, it's FND Awareness Day today, so I'm just plugging that in there. Sorry, Right. But what I'm getting the point at is that you get trolls there massively. People say, "Oh, you're faking it. I'll grow up," or stop putting your friends and family through it. You just get to work and all that sort of stuff. How cruel is that? That is just it. You say be kind. It's not being kind. Just piss off.
But you know what though? That's nothing personal.
Yeah.
It seems so personal, doesn't it? So when you get those comments and I get those comments, we look at that and it seems so. It's nothing personal. If it wasn't you, if it wasn't me, it'd be somebody else. If someone's got that kind of cruelty and that kind of hatred and that kind of angst inside them, they need to get it out, otherwise it just stays inside them.
Right.
So they need to project it somewhere.
Yeah.
So it's not actually personal. They just look at it, they find you and go, well, that's how I can let out some of this darkness. Right, okay. So I can let out some of this anger. It seems like it's the most personal thing in the world. It never is.
Right.
And knowing that, actually, you kind of like can be more forgiving. You can be more tolerant of that because you know it's not personal.
Yeah.
I know it seems it is, but it's not. Because if someone, as we said last week, you can read any scripture and find hatred. If you've got hatred in your heart, you're going to look for somewhere to reflect that back at you.
Okay, that makes sense.
So you're finding a connection for hatred.
Yeah.
You go, there it is.
Yeah.
That justifies my hatred I feel in my heart because I've read it in the scripture.
Right, yeah.
I've read it in this particular old scripture I've got here, and it's the same with the comments on social media. They need to get that out there because imagine sitting in that. It's very, very revealing when someone would attack someone who they don't even know. It just says so much about them. That's why comments don't really bother me.
Yeah. The thing is, I read through some comments people are putting about people. I'm thinking, why would you say that? I mean, I think that's just the person I am. But you got people out there who, as you say, are obviously very angry in their life.
Yeah.
Who are going through trauma themselves possibly, and they're looking for, as you say, for an escape. To let their anger out, to vent and stuff like that. They may not feel that way about that person. It's about the situation they're in. I didn't think of it that way.
Yeah, so it's really it can be really simplified really when people say to me, because people say to me a lot about what I say I see going on in the world and my own perception. They say, well, what's the proof of that? It's really not that difficult because no man of peace and compassion would try and control other people, or whether it's a political scene or in a family. Women too, if they wouldn't seek to harm other people, they wouldn't seek to suppress them, they wouldn't seek to make their lives harder. The only people that would do that are people that are really dysfunctional.
Yeah,
and I don't think we speak about that enough. We talk about mental health issues as like depression, anxiety, and so on.
Yeah,
but we never talk about what I think are clear mental health issues like narcissism, seeking to control other people. I mean, these are dysfunctional human beings. No man of peace would do that. No man of courage would seek to do that.
Yeah,
it's the opposite. It's really not that hard when you look around you, but of course we get so caught up in ourselves and how it makes us feel.
Yeah,
that we then don't see what's really going on.
No, that's true.
So once we can free ourselves of ourselves, we can really see the environment in a lot clearer way.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think from the past, for sure. In before my son's days and all that sort of stuff, you look at it, you look back and you think, sometimes you're told from the past that you've got anger problems or you got temper problems, but you haven't, and you get told it because they're the ones who feel insecure, or they're the ones who are angry, they're the ones who are upset, they're the ones who've got the issues behind them.
Yeah, and they don't want it seen.
Or maybe they're not getting their own way.
Bouncing back at them. Yeah, absolutely. And that's really important what you just said there, because I think that's what's happened in the appeasement, people-pleasing society we now live in, is that we've been told anger's bad. We see it at schools, don't we? If the boys get angry at each other or they get a bit rough, the teachers jump straight in.
Yeah.
Almost like you're made to feel like it's wrong, you feel guilt and shame over being more boisterous, over getting angry. They don't understand a lot of these emotions. I mean, a world without anger will be one where suicide and depression would just go through the roof, because anger is transformative. It's what pulls you out of the lowest parts of your life.
I think so.
It's transformative.
Yeah, I believe that's true as well. I mean, but you need that you need that emotion.
You do,
as you say, to get through certain situations and stuff. Doesn't make you a bad person, a nasty person. It's just that emotion. Everyone's got it.
It's what you do with it.
Yeah.
I mean, I can write great blogs whilst feeling angry on injustice about something. I can go and have a great workout. I can go and create something with it. So the emotion itself is not bad. It's what you do with it and how it comes out.
So important. I miss the times when I used to be angry. I used to go out for a really hard run, like you used to do.
Yeah.
I used to go out and
absolutely
let it out on your run and go and exhaust yourself out. And that's how I used to let my anger out. I really do miss those the ability to be able to do that.
Yeah.
So that may come back. And
you're doing it. You will find other creative outlets. You're doing it another way, and I think you already are, to be honest.
Yeah. I mean, it's important for everybody to find that thing to go and do to release that.
I mean, for the painter, it's creating a piece of art. Look at Frida, the Mexican lady that wrote those. She's such a traumatic life, and the stuff she painted through grief, through anger, through turmoil was just astonishing. And that's what you do with it. And this is the problem: if you're going to live a life of appeasement and people pleasing, you're deliberately locking down certain emotions that you've been taught to deem wrong, inappropriate. Maybe they are at that time, but if you lock them down just to keep other people happy, you are going to head for disaster. You will end up physiologically and psychologically ill at some point in your life, and that is not spoken about enough.
No, it's just that you're in that bubble. You're going round and round and round. It happens and it happens again, and then you might calm down, but it happens again. You know, it's a vicious cycle, and then a spiral staircase down. Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think it's so difficult these days.
It's like keeping a lid on a pressure cooker. You say, well, I can't say this. I have to deny that emotion in me. You know, you're denying yourself. Actually, you're separating from your sense of self. We talk about addictions doing that. Well, so does people pleasing. You're denying yourself, and it can only ever end in disaster. It may take a while, but eventually, and you'll never live the life that you were supposed to or wanted to. In fact, we got a question that we're going to have on the Unlimited Courage website soon, and it says, would you stand up in front of an audience and voice your beliefs and opinions? Because everyone's happy to sit around the dinner table and have a go and voice their opinion. But they won't do it to a wider audience. No. They won't do it in a larger cafe. They won't do it. They certainly wouldn't do it on stage. And I think it's an important question I wanted to put on there, because it reveals: are you happy to voice your opinion at the dinner table? Yeah. Or would you do it on a wider? And most people won't do it.
I love that. The fact you said around your dinner table, you'd happily, have a dig at anybody, and have your opinion. Have you seen The Royal Family, the comedy show, where Jim Royal, right? He sits in his chair, he has a dig at everybody on the TV, or has a go at Norma, like Nanny or whatever, and calls everybody the names under the sun. But when it comes to talking to their face, he's like two-faced. He says what they want to hear. He's a people pleaser when it comes to it. But as soon as they go out that door, he's proper calling them I don't know, a selfish bastard or something like that.
Yeah, that's the division though, isn't it? That so many people have within themselves is just that division of, I've got to be one thing here and another thing here. And of course, sometimes you have to, but if it's a complete lifestyle, then it's going to be an issue. You're just suppressing and locking it all down.
I think it happens everywhere though. Yeah, it does, and and as we say, it's a shame that it is.
But if we don't think it's a barter though, I try and experiment. You open the door for people when you go in a cafe and let them through. Yeah. How often would you do it before everyone didn't say a word and didn't thank you? How many people would continue to open the door if you would just walk through and never said anything? Yeah. I mean, I remember years ago when I went into Cafe Nero when it was in Sevenoaks, and someone opened the door for this lady, and she was on her phone and walked through without saying anything, and he was shouting down the street after her. So as an experiment, I thought I'd walk through as well, not say anything, and it made him even more angry. So I was thinking, well, why are you opening the door then? Are you opening the door as a barter to get some sort of appreciation, acknowledgement back? Yeah. Or are you opening the door because you really believe in those values? Yeah. And it's. Do
you know what though? You saying that? I opened the door for a few people. There's some people who aren't on their phone. They're not busy. They even look at you. They don't say thank you. They look at you and go, oh, you're tall.
That's the distraction.
And they just walk past.
Otherwise, they'd have said thank you.
And I just go, okay, that's fine. But then some days I'm thinking, you really, they should have said thank you then. But I think, I think it depends on the person you are.
And on the day as well, if you're more stressed, you're in a rush yourself. Yeah. And absolutely.
But sometimes you wouldn't. If I walk through a door, if someone's opened a door, I might not be thinking about it. I might be busy with the kids or something. I forget to say thank you. So
yes, absolutely.
You kind of got to put yourself in their situation. That person on the phone may be having a call with their, I don't know, with their wife, and they might be having a distressing moment.
Absolutely.
Or something like that.
That's it. We just don't know, do we? No. We think we do, and we judge in that moment, but we don't actually know.
If someone didn't let you go on a junction and flash you to let you go, when you think, I would have let you go there, well, they might be having a bad day. They might need to get somewhere. They're going to pick up their kid who's unwell at school or something.
Absolutely.
So I think we're full of a world of people who are judgmental, who, again, people please, but everyone's different, aren't they? And that I think, but when it comes to it,
I think the question people need to ask themselves is why do I find the need to keep everybody happy, and what do I get out of it? No one wants to ask. We ask that question on the courses and seminars. It's really uncomfortable because it's like anything you're doing, a fixed habit. What do I get out of it? Even if it's someone that's because it's so revealing for them to know. Even if you've got panic attacks or chronic anxiety, if you've got chronic anxiety, so what do I get out of it? People's initial reaction will be, what a question. What do you mean, what do I get out of it? But if you really look at it without any judgment, you'll find that actually it does help me avoid doing uncomfortable things. It does help me avoid standing up for myself and voicing my opinion. If you really look at it and ask why, what we get out of something, a habit that we do, or something that we feel we need to live by, it's very revealing.
So no one's ever asked me that, because I suffer with anxiety. No one's ever said to me, so what do you get out of anxiety?
Yeah.
But you get something out of everything.
You do.
And actually, it's funny you should say that, because if I feel anxious, the worst thing I want to do is go into a busy shop. Because I feel like the whole world is just looking at me. I feel awful, and I need to get out of that situation. But when I get home, I sit down and I evaluate that situation, and I think, so why am I feeling that way? What's making me feel that sense at the time? I don't even know, because my brain is just so full of so many emotions. But you need to look further down.
Yeah, because it's just a symptom, isn't it? Anxiety is just a symptom.
Yeah, and it's caused by something. Yeah. And what's causing it exactly? So it's important to try and work out what your triggers are, and I'm doing that currently now, which I'm doing pretty well with, I think.
Yeah, and I do think that avoiding that your own potential.
Yeah,
I mean, potential's a funny word, isn't it? It's like it doesn't exist yet. It's just a word that conjures up ideas and images of what your future could be and what you're capable of doing.
Philosophy.
And no one really looks at that. No one really thinks. They all think about, I have anxiety, I need to manage my life, or this is. And people say to me, but that's not who I am. And more often than not, they don't even know who they are. Yeah. It's just a habit. It's just a form of conditioning that they're saying in that moment. That's not who I am. Yeah. Yeah. That's all very well for you guys, but I can't do that. That's not who I am. But the truth is, they don't know who they are. Yeah. It's just a conditioning they've been led to believe, and now they're living it as a truth that's keeping their life really confined.
And when you say that they don't know who they are, we also really, when it comes to people pleasing, we don't know those other people. We don't know what they're going through and stuff like that. So when it comes to people pleasing, that for one, I'm so bad at it, is worrying about what other people think. So
it's the most common thing. It's a fear, isn't it?
It is, yeah. And but you don't know that person, so why should you care what that person thinks? But people say that to me a lot. But I don't know why.
Because really you're looking to accept yourself. You're really looking to accept yourself from external approval rather than your own. And it's almost like constantly looking out in the world to once I acquire this or gain this, I'll arrive. I'll be all okay. If I get approval from everyone around me, I will arrive. Do you know what? It's the opposite.
I was just about to say, it's the complete opposite of people pleasing.
It is,
isn't it? It's absorbing what you feel that person should feel about you.
I think it was who was the guy that wrote the Black Swan? I think it was Nassim Taleb. He's really into Stoic philosophy, and he said, I think it was, I don't want to quote him word for word because I can't remember it, but he basically said, if you split your audience 50-50, you're doing some good work. Yeah. Because not everyone's going to be on board. People do want to stay confined and small where they are. They want to throw stones at you. They want to stab you in the back. And he said, you only know when you're making great work when you split your audience. Okay. So you've got some that really love what you're doing, and some that really hate what you're doing. Because if you was pleasing everybody, then it was probably weak work that you're doing.
Do you know what that really does make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. I thought it's quite a powerful thing thing to say, and I think it's very, very true.
It is very powerful, and I think if you look at it, it makes complete sense.
Yeah, and we spoke about it with Dean, didn't we, in the cafe some time ago? Is that I said to him, and we do one on this on a little bit more detail, but we said about Jesus of Nazareth. And I said if he came back today, they'd kill him again. I've no doubt about that. Everyone says, "Oh, isn't it a shame that we haven't got a new Messiah?" Which is just a cop out and irresponsibility itself by saying that. But also, I've got no doubt they would lock him up and throw away the key, or they would take the guy out and kill him, because he was a guy that was against authority. He was totally uncompromising in his message.
Yeah.
He had huge amounts of haters, and huge amounts of people that loved him. He split the audience.
Yeah.
And when you've got someone that comes along, totally uncompromising, incredibly courageous, considering how it ended.
Yeah, yeah.
And expected people to be fully involved and all in, no dabblers. You're going to get someone that splits the audience, and he did split the audience. This idea that he was like a lamb-like gentle person, we will get into this more another time. It's just ridiculous when you look at his life and how he lived.
Well, I'm sure this conversation, this little one here, would definitely split the audience for sure.
Yeah, there'd be things that are said. You
absolutely.
Know, people with anxiety may listen to what I've just said and say,
"That's your point, though.
Ridiculous."
That's your point, though, isn't it? I can understand your point. You know,
yeah,
everyone has their views and stuff like that, and you say if you don't have negatives, it's you're not doing enough.
No,
you're not
absolutely.
Doing the
And
right
it's we spoke about it last time. I'm going to say it again. Real personal development is uncomfortable. It's extremely uncomfortable to see how you've created your life, the decisions you've made have led you to where you are now, and what happens next cannot be formed on the patterns of the past. You have to keep growing, and it is uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable for me. It's uncomfortable for you. It's uncomfortable for everybody.
Yeah.
But that's the only real personal development there is. This idea that it can happen through smiles and joy and happiness, that will come afterwards. But it doesn't happen at the time. Just to see yourself and how you created your life is always uncomfortable.
Definitely.
It's a light bulb moment and a breakthrough, but it's always uncomfortable.
See, every time we have these podcasts, I have these light bulb moments, you know, because I kind of feel like it's a therapy for me. You know, it's part of the process. It's great. I love it. And it's every time I come away from these podcasts, I feel I can't even think of the word, but it's kind of I feel myself looking deeper into myself to find to understand who I am a bit more.
Yeah,
and it's so important to do that. And I think with this video today, we're talking about people pleasing. I think we've identified so much more than that as well. I think we've
absolutely, and that's the whole idea. These chats are not like a step. Here's a step 1 to 10, because there isn't any step 1 to 10.
No,
it is about, you know, if we can do any sort of summary, it's about looking at what you get out of it. It's a big one, and it's uncomfortable looking what you get out of it. Who would you be if you didn't go around people pleasing and having some false politeness and niceness all the time, just to remain some sort of safety, perceived safety? Who would you be if you didn't do that? What would you be able to do? How would your life change?
Okay. What
would you have to sacrifice in order to let that go?
Yeah.
Because I'll tell you, on the other side of that is just an immense freedom, and I think that's why I know that's why I went into martial arts originally, because I thought, my mother used to tell me that everyone said, "Oh, he's such a nice, polite boy," and inside I was a quadrant of rage.
Yeah. And
yet this outside persona was, I just need to give people what they want, but inside I was just this dark cauldron of rage, almost this demon prompted me saying, come on, let this out, let's see who you really are and what you can do with this.
I could kind of relate to that.
Who can't?
Like, especially these days with the world we live in at the moment. I think so many people watching this video today will think, fucking hell, that is me. That's me all over. I've got so much inside me that I've got to release, and I've got to find, and I'm holding back. I don't want to hold back anymore.
And that's a really important point, what we just said there. Now we come on to that darkness and that shadow that Carl Jung said, that dark element of inside of us. That's what's being locked down and suppressed. That's what's making people please. We've been led to believe that the darkness, that capacity for chaos, malevolence, that the capacity to be able to have that, is being denied. And if you deny it, then you're just going to end up more evil than what you would have been anyway, because you're denying something that needs to be processed. And I think that it's that darkness that will actually lead you to your highest potential, the highest good you've got. Because it's like the Chinese yin and yang symbol. Everyone thinks that the black fish and the white fish, they said, they're opposing parts of the. No, they're complementary. You need both, the light and the dark. They're not opposing, they're complementary.
Obviously there's a lot said about that, about the yin and yang, and if they see that on paper, or if they see that in your possession, they automatically think something of you. They kind of judge you straight away. But my brother watched the last episode, right, the last podcast we did, and he couldn't believe some of the stuff I was talking about, because he said, I've never heard you talk about stuff like that before.
That's good.
Which is great. I love it. It's great because he believes in a lot of things, that most things, that maybe more than what we say. The whole society is split, and it's going to always be split. But to get your potential, you got to find what side suits you best, if you know what I mean. But as you say, you got to. I don't know. Sorry, I've brought this one up.
Well, there's no. It's fine. There's no boundaries without incorporating your dark side into you. Not denying it, but incorporating it. You have no boundaries. You can't even have real concrete values that aren't just there to people please, unless you incorporate that darkness.
Yes.
You can't access your potential unless you incorporate that darkness, whatever that may be, as an artist, writer, business owner, whatever that may be. You need to keep it you need to keep it on a lead, though. You need to know who's the captain of the ship. But that darkness really pushes you forward. And for me, I absolutely know I went into martial arts to access that fierceness.
Wow, yeah.
Which is why I've come up, which was why I always refer to Churchill's saying of "be kind but be fierce." To me, that's the light and the dark, right there. That's what he was describing, I believe, in that.
See, again, you bring up all these brilliant quotes today by people, but at Churchill, and I've never heard, to be fair, I'm going to be honest, I've never heard of that. People will say, Churchill said that, because people don't, you've put it out there before, and there was comments, and people don't believe that quote at all.
Here we've had a massive, with the guys, we've had a massive fight back against it. Guys don't even understand. They've locked down so much their own fierceness, their own darkness, that they can't even comprehend the idea of being kind but be fierce. But we go back to Jesus of Nazareth again. He was kind but fierce. My God, was he fierce?
See, that word you use, darkness, it's a very very deep, dark word. It's dark, and people might think, what are you talking about darkness like that for? People shouldn't be dark. They shouldn't be. But everybody, as you say, would come back to that anger. Everybody's got to have that emotion in them.
Yeah.
To get himself out of situations, it's like fight and flight.
Yeah.
So you've got that dark side of yourself which you need to use, and you've got that light side.
You also, without incorporating the fierceness into the shadow, without incorporating it, you won't protect what really matters to you. Yeah. So it's a well-known fact that people pleasers actually deny their own family to please people around. I've met many people like that, men as well, that actually put more effort into their friends than their own family, because they're always looking to please them. They're always looking to boost their reputation.
Right.
So you won't protect what really matters unless you acknowledge and incorporate that darkness in you, or that fierceness. You just won't, and that's terrible. I mean, I've met many men. They've sat in that chair directly next door and said, "My children don't speak to me anymore. How can I mend it?" And you're like, whoa, how long has this been going on? It's been going on for years.
So I think that's every man's fear, every father's fear, is that the relationship between them and their child isn't great. Every man wants that relationship with their kid. But there's things in life, especially at the moment with the way life is, it's going to get in the way of that somehow if you let it happen. But you shouldn't let that happen. You should identify the areas in your life which will prevent that from happening. But it's so difficult to identify that, because it's the way we're taught in society at the moment, isn't it? And
it's even harder now than it was. I mean, post World War II or pre World War II, everyone believed in discipline. Maybe it was over the top sometimes, but there was a certain way of doing things. And now men have just stepped back, and I see the most incredible things. I mean, almost feel like and I'm no model father. I'll say that right now. I've made a lot of mistakes, but I can clearly identify what will damage the child, and that I need to remove it despite the fight back I get. For instance, if I see one of my boys, which I wouldn't allow it anyway, but I see so many children that come here that have been gaming all the time without any kind of like recommendation of how, no boundaries at all, right. And it's really made them quite ill, not right. just physically but mentally as well. They're really struggling. No point the father stepped in and say, "What are you doing?" Because he's frightened. Yeah, he wants to be their friend.
It becomes addiction to the child.
He's people pleasing.
Yeah.
He doesn't want to stand up and put those boundaries down.
No.
He doesn't want to upset the mother, his wife. He
Mm.
doesn't want to upset the children. He's too busy trying to be their friend.
Mm.
And I even spoke to a guy the other day that said, "Oh, I really wish they would bring in a law where gaming for children under, I can't remember the age he said, it was 11 or 12, is forbidden." And I said, "What, to let you off the hook? So you don't have to be a responsible father?"
That's so well put. Do you know
and
what?
This is where we're at now. Someone else, you take responsibility for my child. Take responsibility for the food I'm supposed to eat. Take responsibility for my political views and everything.
Yeah.
Well, I tell you what, you're going to end up with an absolute tyranny and so much psychological ill health. It will be something we've never seen before, and I believe that's happening now.
Well, you can see it happening, can't you? I mean, you know, every child has got some form of device, and they're on it. Parents, I'm bad for it. I've done it in the past. You go out for a meal, the child's misbehaving. I'll just use your iPad. There's no discipline. Yeah. There's no teaching the child how to behave around a table. You see everybody.
And it's back to that question, is it? Well, what do I get out of that? I get a peaceful meal. I don't have to step up. I don't have to give them the discipline right in the table.
Oh, I can see the comments coming down right now. but if you look deep enough, everybody will understand what we're saying there.
Yeah.
And blimey, I've never been so honest. I've never been so open before.
That's good. I think we should let our audience know now. Anyone that leaves a comment is filed in the black bin that we keep at the end of the drive. It's taken out every Friday morning.
But if you open your eyes enough and you see that, then it's true, isn't it? Really,
it's really empowering. But yeah, this is why the message for men to step up now is so important, because the men are just as much people pleasing and appeasers now as what women are. They used to be the ones that, you know, they supplied if you want to look at the bad cop, good cop, that's who the men were. They were the ones that put the discipline in. They were the ones that put the boundaries in. It's almost like men are stepping back now and saying to the woman, "Well, you make a decision, and I'll just step back, or what do you want to do, and I'll just go along with it." He's not stepping into his masculine role anymore.
Okay.
And I think that's the implications of that are huge, and it could be a huge catastrophe as well going forward in the future. And I think that the guys you just can't do that anymore. Just step into the role, and everyone will benefit. The children will benefit, the wives, girlfriends, other halves, partners, whoever they may be, they will all benefit. And it's just something that has to be done. The children need it. God, do they need it?
Yeah, they need that guidance from their father for sure.
You're not there to be their friend.
Yeah. Do you know what though? I'm bad for doing that. I call my son mate a lot. I think the word mate has, especially in this country.
Absolutely.
I saw there's a video on TikTok the other day about this guy who went to America, and he said that you guys in the UK say mate an awful lot. So he actually went into a shop with his phone in his hand, recording it. Just to take the piss really, and say how many times we say mate to people rather than sir or madam, or how it used to be. I was talking.
Yeah, we'd never done that once. It's true. Yeah,
but even when I used to work as a manager at a leisure centre, I wouldn't go out and say, "You're right there, mate. How can I help you?" I'll go, "Hi, sir. Can I help you?" But that was just the way I was. I think that, but even now, that's come out of me. I'm calling people mate. It's just. It's crazy, really, and that's the society we're in.
It's all out now on camera, Chris, so you're going to have
to... Again, the comments are rolling down the screen right now. But do you know what? It's just a weird world we're living in at the moment. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, we get to create it though. We get to really create our own. We not just create our own lives and our own character, but the world around us. So that's why we need to look at things before they go too far. I think.
Yeah.
And we can make the corrections in place. It starts with us. We have so much power we don't realise it, and we can make these corrections.
Definitely. So I think there's another brilliant podcast there.
Yeah, it's enjoyable.
Lots of info there. Lots of quotes from yourself from other books, and
not sure all of them were right, but we got some of them in there.
It's brilliant. I think a lot of the viewers here will be looking at it thinking, "Blimey." A lot was said there, but I think if they open their eyes a little bit, I've been opening mine a lot over the last few months.
I think the people pleasing is a big one. I think whether you go to church, you're a Christian, or you consider yourself to be a Christian, how you live your life, just look at it and go, what are you hiding behind? Why are you doing it? What would you need to sacrifice? And in order to have a more fulfilling life, purposeful life. And what would that look like? How would it change your life? They're big questions. They're big questions we don't ask. All we focus on is avoiding discomfort, avoiding the confrontation.
Okay.
If we look at the other side of it and goes, well, what life am I missing out on by that? Why do I do it? What do I need to sacrifice in order to become a different person? Then we can start to connect with something outside, and that's the potential. Nothing's created yet. It's all swirling around us, but we can just create it in that moment by asking those difficult questions.
Definitely.
Yeah,
it's all there. Positive. It's all there to happen.
Absolutely.
Brilliant. Well, another good one.
Great.
Well done,
Chris. Thanks very much.
No worries. Brilliant.
Until next time.
Perfect.